The following is brought to you by the Starfleet Podcast Network, SPN The Spin. You talk about the budget also. A lot of us don't have access to the personal seamstresses or people that can make custom sizes. You're ordering off a website where they have their chart, and you're just praying that a 3XL in the US is the same scale as a 3XL from China. And let me just tell you, it's not.
Exactly what happened.
It's not. Right? Yes.
Always order one size up at least. Yeah.
Red alert.
So just to do some introductions. My name is Jefferson. I'm with Beyond Trek Podcast. And of course, you know Steve from HarrisFilm Productions. Today, we're going to be talking about Star Trek of Love and Honor. And I have Jack Ponissi, who's the creator, writer, and producer. And Valter Chiorino is the director. Now, I want to make sure I pronounce it correctly. I heard the audio file of you guys saying it, but hearing it and imagining I say it correctly can be different than what actually comes out of my mouth, which I've usually found. So hopefully I did okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you, Jack and Valter. Glad you were able to join us. So now the two of you are in Italy, and this fan film is a Italian production. Okay. That is great. Jack, if you'd like to get us started, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your role in this film, and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, I got involved in this film very early on. It was almost 4 years ago. And the thing is that there was the idea of doing a movie. There were a couple of ideas, like the time period, of course, which is mid 21st century. And a couple of ideas of just very, very thin ideas. I took those and I wrote the story. Then we tried, we cast, I got involved in the casting process to find the actors. And eventually we did the teaser, that was a couple of years ago. Then we needed a new director, and so we found Valter, of course, who had this idea of how to actually film it, and we did it. And well, I kind of oversaw most of the project, and I also, my main job is a musician, so of course I had to write the soundtrack, basically. It was something I just needed to do.
It's only natural.
Yeah.
Valter, how about you?
A great soundtrack, I might add. Well, yes, I'm a video maker, a filmmaker here in Italy. I've been working with clients for some time. I stumbled upon Jack because one of the actors is an acting student from an acting school that I work with. And so I was already passionate about Star Trek, and this guy told me about this fan film, and I said, "Well, that's great. I would like to work on that and see if there's possibilities of some collaboration." And I discovered that they were actually looking for a director to take on the project, and I was like, here I am. That's perfect. So the main issue, let's say, was how to present the story, because we have the crowdfunding project to launch. We already had the teaser, but the main doubt was how to present the story and the characters, because you can do some interviews with the actors, maybe some teaser images, but we wanted to do something more. And so we decided to shoot the first half of the movie in a very surreal way, you might say, a very theater-like way, with a very essential and minimal production design, and with a very expressive, very again surreal use of lighting to focus a little bit more on the characters and on the story. Instead of focusing on, the actual theatrical effect, which wasn't really much important to us, because, Star Trek has always been a show about characters, about the story. And so we decided to focus on that in a much more essential way, in a more simplistic approach.
Now, Steve, on your end, how did you come across filmmakers in Italy? Do you have a visa or a passport? You're going international on us, right?
Well, yeah, I'm always keeping my ear to the ground for a project. And Jack was talking about doing a project. And I reached out to him and asked if there was anything I could do to help. And I suggested maybe if he needed help doing the English translation. I don't speak Italian fluently, but I speak Spanish, and it's similar. And through Google Translate and so on, I was able to read the script in Italian, even though Jack had done an English version. And I compared the Italian with my translation to the English translation, and went through making it nautical terms, instead of the wall or the floor, the deck and the bulkhead. So that was the first thing, so that it's more understandable and more in character with an actual Star Trek type of a story in English. And then the technobabble, transporter room or whatever. And Jack had most of it down. It's just sometimes, you have idiomatic expressions in English that don't translate from Italian and vice versa. So I had to go over a couple of those things with him, like, that's water off a duck's back. Well, what does that mean in Italian? How do I say that? Or,
no idea.
you know what I mean?
No idea.
And it's like, so
may not
we'll come
have
up with
that
something
phrase.
different. We'll come up with something that's same, it's the same idea, but it's not so difficult in English. So that was it. And that was a couple of years ago. We talked several times, emailed each other, and this is the first time I've actually seen him online. So hi.
So with this film, and you guys will have to to fill me in on this, is this your first venture of a Star Trek fan film that was aimed at, well, not just American audiences, but just fan film creators or fans in general? Is this your guys' first film, or have there been others that you've done?
As regarding Star Trek fan films, I think this is the first Star Trek fan film made in Italy that's going to actually come out. So of everything, I mean, nobody did it before.
So nobody in Italy's ever tried this.
This is a first.
I know that a couple of people tried many years ago, but that never came out.
What do you think were the difficulties or challenges in trying to do a fan film? Maybe not so much in Italy, but if you could tell me if there's something specific there, or just in general with other countries trying to do Star Trek fan films. Is it just for the same reasons that Steve brought up, and Jack or Walter, either of you could add to this, is that there's too much of a language barrier, not only between Italian and, say, English or other languages, but you have phrases and wording that there's no, like, we have just like Steve said, idiosyncrasy. I can't even say it.
Idiomatic expressions. Yeah.
There you go.
Like, go jump in the lake.
Right. Exactly. Things like that. So is that a challenge that you believe may have kept others there from wanting to do a fan film on a series that really has its roots in America? Well,
the thing is, as you surely know, doing a movie is extremely complex, basically. It's complex and it's also expensive. And you need to have to find a very focused group of people And of course, you have to find someone who can write, which is not as easy as one might think, and that would be me in this case. You have to find someone who can direct, and that would be Valter. And you have to find actors. And of course, with the guidelines, you can't pay anybody. So everyone is a volunteer, an unpaid volunteer. Then you have to find a place to actually film it. And of course, you have to finance, to find the money for all this, and organize all the schedule and so on. It's really quite an endeavor. That's, I think, the main reason nobody actually did it. Even I know I've seen pretty much all of the historical fan films, like New Voyages, Continuous, and so on. I try to keep up with all the new ones who are coming up these days. I see that there are like one big production and like 100 very small ones, which are fine, of course. But it's really difficult to do something that actually has a story and you can actually film it.
I might add too that in Italy, everything regarding art is in a very gray state, because it's really not considered serious from a social point of view. In Italy, we have this very big problem that art is pretty much not serious, and there's no money regarding music, art, theater, and it's very, very complex. We are seeing a little rebirth on that front, but it's very, very difficult. We're still very behind that, and so that's even more complex when you're trying to do something little like our project. But it's not that little on the sense that it's also science fiction. It's not like you have to, there's starship scenes in space, a couple of uniforms, something like that. Now, the beauty of Star Trek is that you can do it with a table and 2 chairs. It's not like Star Wars, where you have at some point to have some lightsaber duel or something. Star Trek can have this very theater-like approach, but it's still science fiction, and that's so you have the problem of CGI or production design. You can do without that, but it's very complex.
I am very surprised that you said that in Italy, the issue is that art and creativity is not taken seriously. And that could be American ignorance, but, and Steve, hopefully you can back me up on this, but
yeah,
that is the exact opposite of something that I would think would be, said about Italy.
You're the home of Michelangelo, for goodness sakes, right? I mean, what's going on there? You have no funding, no.
There's no money about anything. So wow. Art downgrades. Okay, so it's down on the list, things. And unfortunately, we had. I don't want to get political, of course. It's just that we have some decades of some struggles with the approach, the confrontation between television and cinema, and. That changed the approach on filmmaking and art in a very important way. In fact, you could see that in Italy between the 60s and the 80s, there was actually a lot of science fiction. I'm talking about B movies, of course, but there was a severe production of science fiction and derivative movies. From giallos to science fictions and to mystery movies, adventure movies, post-apocalyptic movies. That disappeared after a while. All of those directors stopped working because the pressure of television arrived, and other genres started to arise, which were more television approachable on televisions. And so we still do a lot of comedies and a lot of thriller movies, but we are just slowly regaining the culture of genre movies. I don't know how to say it, like science fiction or something like that. There's a very low amount of science fiction movies in Italy in the last 20 movies in the last 20 years.
It's kind of like in America where you have this plethora of Marvel Universe films now. I mean, it's like we had nothing for 20 years. And then all of a sudden there's 500 different Spider-Mans, you know, right? Or whatever. So, yeah, things go in a cycle. And it's very unfortunate that science fiction is so low on the list everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
There are a lot of stories that could be told.
There's a lot of people that put a lot of effort into that, but it's a minority and they have to struggle a lot. That's everywhere.
And science fiction seems to be so readily available to anyone because you can make stuff up. That's what science fiction is. Same thing as, well, you've got Star Trek, which I really consider science fiction, and I don't think anyone argues that. Star Wars, though, to me, that's more science fantasy. That is not really grounded in anything real science like Star Trek is. That's just, you want to have mystical powers, have mystical powers. You want to have lightsabers, have lightsabers. And I would think that something like that would be easily approachable just about anywhere. Now, is there any particular franchise when it comes to Star Trek or Star Wars or Marvel or any of them that seem to be the most popular in Italy? Like, what's your main import when it comes to television and movies? Is it Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel? What would you say is the main thing? Doctor Who, even?
I think that right now Marvel is the most followed here, but I think it's more or less worldwide, at least in the Western world anyway.
Yes,
Star Wars is of course very followed, but is already seen more like a nerdy thing. Star Trek even more so. I talk with a lot of people. Until I don't know, 10 years ago, I didn't know anybody else who liked Star Trek, more or less.
Doctor Who is like bottom of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Is it really? I'm learning all kinds of things here. All kinds of assumptions and preconceived notions I came in with are just being blown out of the water because apparently Italy is now not known for art or creativity. Doctor Who is at the bottom of the list. And,
and Star
Marvel
Trek is below Star Wars, right?
Yes. Well, Star Trek that's anywhere you go. That's worldwide. I think you're just going to find Star Trek is always and probably always will be below Star Wars, even though Star Trek did it first. That's just how it is. But yeah, no surprise that Marvel is reigning king over there. Now there are a lot of places here in the U.S. you could walk around in a Starfleet uniform and probably not get a whole lot of looks. Nobody really pays much attention. Right. What does that look like in Italy if you're just walking around and it's not a convention and you're in a uniform?
Yeah, was there a reaction when you were filming?
The thing is that we only filmed in closed sets so far. So
okay.
Closed sets at night here. Under cover of darkness.
Yeah, we're not telling everybody that we are doing Star Trek here.
We're making a movie. That's all you need to know.
Well, anyway,
this is not the movie you're looking for.
Yeah,
this is not the movie you're looking for.
Well, anyway, with any franchises that you talked about, there's a very big cult following for every of those franchises. It's just not very, how do you say? It's not very evident. It's not. You don't see it every day.
Yeah. Well, there's a stigma
there's a lot of
attached to
Doctor
science fiction anyway. People make fun of you for liking science fiction.
I don't even know if Doctor Who has been dubbed in Italian, and all of it anyway.
Not all of it. There's a very huge problem with distribution and dubbing of the later seasons. It's kind of a mess.
I want to expand on something that Steve just said, the stigma behind science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. And I'm sure it's not just specific to science fiction, but you can certainly see a lot of the history and roots of science fiction is it's not cool to be outed as a science fiction fan.
Right.
You don't want people to know that you like Star Trek. You don't want to show off too much of your Star Trek stuff or Star Wars stuff because there is that stigma that seems to be behind that. Is that also something that you've noticed where you're at in Italy, that there's a stigma behind just science fiction in general?
Yes, but it's lessening, I think. Over the years, things are getting better. When I was a kid, you couldn't basically say, especially like things like Star Trek, no way. But now I think it's going better.
That's after Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory arrived and nerds started popping.
Okay.
I mean, I think there are some places where it's easier to come out as being communist than it is a science fiction fan.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Easier things in the world. What would you guys say was the best part of making your film? We talked about the difficulties, which we know there's the language barrier, the just getting people together, the scheduling. What would you say was the best experience of creating this film of Love and Honor?
For me, well, first of all, meeting all these wonderful people. We put together a small but very good team with a lot of passion. And then, of course, actually seeing my ideas come to life. We did a private screening a couple of weeks ago, and it was really, really fantastic.
You said you had a public screening?
No,
Yes.
private, only for the team.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
We're going for a public one in a month from now.
Mm.
And is this going to be at a cinema or a local library or?
There are local cinema here.
Local cinema, good. Okay. And so, Jefferson, were you going to show the trailer?
Yes. So I'm going to
Let's show the trailer and then ask questions about that, because I think, I'm loving getting to know everybody, but I bet the audience is wondering, what are you talking about? So
right. Absolutely. That's a very good time to bring it up. So for those of you that are watching and listening, take a moment here. Here is the trailer for Star Trek of Love and Honor.
Space, the final frontier. This is the story of a new voyage, a new crew, a new adventure, to boldly go there where no one has gone before.
That was a very good teaser. That looks like an amazing, the filmography, I can tell, it looks movie-like quality. So you guys really did. If the whole movie looks like that, that is great. Now for the technical people that like the cameras and the behind the scenes, tell us how you capture a look like that, because I'm sure you've seen a lot of fan films that just look wildly different. Some are filmed on cell phones, some are used video cameras or whatnot. Go ahead and get into some more of the specifics of what is it that you use that makes your film look like it's an actual movie quality
That's
film.
cinema quality right there. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm flattered.
We don't give away free, flattery that way, Valter. We're serious.
Thank you. I just sent you the link anyway. I don't really know how to answer that in the sense that it's amazing what you can do. Well, I've had a lot of experiences with limited sets, limited time, limited budget, limited resources. So with video clips and short metrage movies, I pretty much know how to do very simple dialogues or scenes with very few lights. When you have like 3 walls, some lights, some LED lights, some white lights, and a smoke machine, it's incredible what you can achieve with so little. And having an essential space, a very void space to work on, you can fill it with a lot of stuff. And I really try to push the limits in the sense of I've tried to I didn't bother about making the lights openly visible. I wanted to make it feel like a set. I wanted it to be fictitious. That helped me, there's a lot of problem usually while positioning the lights, because maybe you want a certain effect, but you don't have like the space to do it because you don't have to see the lights. I didn't have to bother about this because I wanted to show like the physical prop, the stands. I didn't bother about
shadows.
putting. Yeah, and I didn't want to if I wanted a character, an actor, to be light in a way that light had to be put immediately next to him. I put the light next to him and showed it. I had no problems about that. I tried to do it very freely. And when you have actors and this crew that does a lot of effort to work together and listens to what you're saying and just gets the job done, it all comes out easier than expected, actually.
Do you recall off the top of your head what camera you used, like the model of the camera, the brand?
Oh, yes. Canon EOS R, which is a mirrorless camera. It's the camera that I use both for photography and or filmmaking. But I don't think that the gear in which you shoot this kind of things, it's really that important. I mean, it was a very bright camera. I have some bright lenses. I have some gear that's already mine, so we didn't have the problem of borrowing, buying, or renting equipment, because being a video maker myself, I already have the equipment. And since I do it professionally, over time I've managed to put together a gear that is pretty bright and helps me in a lot of situations. But if you have like a story that functions, actors that are on point, and at least the idea of an interesting light design, I don't think it's really important which gear do you use, because the idea of it is more important, especially when you're doing something indie, when in indie filmmaking.
Did you have to use any color filters or anything like that?
Sorry?
Color filters?
Directly not. I did a very severe work on post-production. And there are some scenes where I think you can see that the final shot of the concept of the teaser trailer. There's the actor that it's completely in shadows, and there's very bright light behind it. Well, I achieved that by, the original shot wasn't like this. I kind of overexposed them a little, but I didn't put any light on him. And by actually overexposing first and then underexposing in post-production, I have achieved this silhouette-like figure. I found it out on post-production. I didn't know how it would turn out after filming, but I tried to, be a little creative, play a little with the images, with the files, and see what turned up.
Which software was that? Adobe After Effects?
No, exclusively Premiere.
Okay.
Premiere.
Again, it's everything you see, it's there. On my hand, I didn't have to use any post-processing software or VFX, any VFX work on my end. On the other hand, there's a lot of effort on the CGI shots done by because we didn't need a CGI shots for the interiors, but we needed a lot of CGI shots for the exterior. Now we couldn't do that, but there's a lot of the CGI shots were done by an amazing German VFX artist, which I think is amateurish. I don't know. I don't know if he's doing professionally.
It's an hobby for him, but it's really good.
It's incredibly good.
Does he do
He's already done the whole movie.
Yeah, he actually finished the whole movie, basically.
And he's using Blender to do this, or do you know what software? Blender,
Yes,
good.
it's Blender.
Yeah.
And also some kind of, I don't remember what we called it, but he has some filtering software he uses after Blender to make it look more real.
Right.
Yeah, it's an amazing job.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's already done the whole movie, because I wanted to make it clear that we didn't shot the entire movie. We shot the first half of it as a concept, because
A proof of concept
what I was.
film. Yes.
Yes, that's to present a story. That's not the finished work.
It's still half an hour, the first half. So
Yes.
it's not like 3 minutes, but it's still half an hour. I actually wrote the story. You had the guidelines, so say I think it's 15 minutes segments. Then we went a bit over that, but quite a bit. But still, that was more or less the point I had imagined. That we could cut the story and then do the second segment.
Because there is an open ending. At some point, it ends, and you can do nothing about it.
Right.
Jack, I want to ask you about the creating, writing, producing process as it was for you, and then Walter for the directing and editing. When you wrote this, produced it, how involved did you stay in it after you were done as a writer and producer? Do you hand it off and say, okay, here's my baby, I trust you, and then you rely on Walter to create that vision? Or do you still stay connected to it in regards to the input of, that's how I pictured it, or that's not how I saw it? Tell us some about that relationship between your role creating, producing, and writing it, Jack, and then handing it over to Walter to direct it and edit it.
Well, first of all, we stay very connected. However, I really like to trust Walter and what he can do. So I usually, maybe I tell him, that's not how I imagined it, but I usually go with what he says. And I think he's usually right, actually, especially on for example, it was like a few months ago during the editing process, he said, I have this idea. And he changed the order of some scenes. And I went into it, I saw the movie, I said, oh, wow, that's actually a great idea. And it was totally not how I imagined it. Also, there are some things like more on the technical acting part. We have a scene where the captain is called from the bridge while he's sleeping. So it's actually a kind of a typical scene. And they say, no, I don't want to do it like with the captain waking up, getting up, and so on. And he feel it quite in a different way. And of course, those are the technical things I don't know about, basically. And on that part, I totally trust him. Also, you keep calling me a producer. I'm not even sure what the job is, basically, because I mean, I paid for some of for the uniforms and so on, for the catering, for like bringing people food and so on. I totally helped in organizing the shoots, like.
That's everything the producer does. Yeah. Got to keep people fed.
I never saw it my role that way. I'm like more overseer. I was on set all the time, making sure that all the lines were actually shot, basically.
Got to make sure people are fed. Is there enough toilet paper?
Yeah.
Are the people that need to be there for their scenes there? Yes.
I guess so. Yeah.
And you did a great job of it.
Yes. Well, we can set sound right now. That's perfect.
Were there any conflicting visions in regards to this is how I picture it. That's not right. We really are not seeing eye to eye on something. Were there any compromises that needed to be made in the filmmaking part of this, where the two of you just saw something completely different, and somebody there either has to be that final call, or we're just going to have to try to do it this way to make both of us happy? Was there any instance of that?
I don't think so. I think we just had a couple of times when Valter cut out a line and they said, no, this is very important, and so he put it back in. But apart from that, I mean, it was working with Valter is, especially on set, but also outside, is really, really, it puts us at ease. Me, the actors, and so on. So it's really a joy working with him.
I thank you, and I might add that for me was very important. His input was very important because maybe I had some ideas, and I don't have this lot of experience, but I've shot already some short metrage movies, so I know what works, what doesn't work in some aspects, in some way, but I never wanted to do something that he didn't like. I don't think too there have been some contrasts, maybe some things, but not in a conflicting way. Like, should we do this? No, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should. Let's do this. On that front, I think that was very easy working with Jack too, because he was very open, and there wasn't a lot to work on. I mean, the script was already great as it was, in the sense that it was already shot in a very it was written in a very intelligent way, because you can see that it was written in a way that it was simple to shoot. In choosing the locations, there's not a lot of exterior scenes. You can see that Jack already wrote it thinking, okay, this must be easy to shoot. We must be able to shoot these scenes in a whole. And so that was already easy, because most of the script, I said, okay, this is not that difficult to do with what we got.
Steve?
Sorry. When I got the project, I knew that we would never have like a lot of money to to film it. So I said, okay, we have to set it like in. I need the bridge set, of course, and then the captain's room. Everything else must be very small, very few scenes. Everything in the same locations, and then everything is inside either the ship or starbase, and with the exception of the very ending, which of course we haven't done yet. That is outside. I actually have a few ideas of where to shoot it with when we get to shoot it. And they actually wanted this contrast. Like most of the movie is very claustrophobic, very inside the ship, and then you get to this very green, very big scene with open air scene basically, which is sort of open air anyway.
So you haven't chosen the location yet for the last scene?
I have a few ideas.
Okay.
You had mentioned doing kind of a not so much a script rewrite, Steve, but sort of a pass through, made things more nautical, tweaking.
Yeah.
Was there anything that you saw during the script, just from your experience as a filmmaker and just with Star Trek, that you said, "Oh, I'm going to have to deliver some bad news that this scene, these lines, it's actually not going to happen within the budget of a fan film"? Can you expand on that or add to that possible experience?
I can't give too much of that away because of the context in which that happens, but there was one scene where I was like, I don't have a clue how you're going to do that at the beginning. It's like, how? Sure, okay, it's a dream, right? Maybe it's just a dream, but still, even in a dream, you're talking about some pretty big details, and these details, how are you going to put this on the screen? So we had some lively conversations about that, and there were some questions that I had about, why in the world did you choose Discovery timeline or Discovery era for this story? Because you seem to be writing a Star Trek TOS style story, and the only thing out of place seems to be the uniforms, because the set looks good. It looks like I expected Discovery was going to do, with the TOS style interiors. And he's like, he never did explain other than, hey, Discovery's new. This is basically, go ahead and tell me again what you said about your idea for Discovery and making your own version. We're correcting the wrongs.
Not really. No, it's actually pretty easy. When I first got involved in the project, there were other people on it that had been, I don't know how long they went with the idea without actually doing it. And they had the Discovery uniforms, not the one we used, the actually blue ones and so on. So they said, okay, we already have those, so the story is set in this era. So that's what I got, and that's what... however, what I always say is that a good story can be written in any era, basically.
I agree.
Also, I took a few ideas from Discovery. I said, okay, what's going on of interest in this era? I say, okay, there is the Klingon Empire, which is in isolationist moment, period of their life. They're fighting between themselves, with all the warlords fighting, each leading a family. And in the future, there will be a war. So I said, okay, what direction I can go from here? And that's what was my starting point, basically.
So rather than have a simple civil war in the Klingon space, let's expand and unite the Klingon Empire against some other foe.
That was the beginning of Discovery, of course.
Yes.
We were set, I think it's a couple of years before this.
Yeah, I think it was 2245 or something like that, wasn't it?
That's the
war.
The first, it's the back, what's called? It's in the past of the movie.
The first Klingon War. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm terrible with dates, honestly.
I'm sorry, there's flashbacks involved, so
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, you're right.
I have a little bit of an insight into the whole picture, but,
Yeah,
you
you're
know,
right.
I'll just say there are
Captain-
flashbacks involved. So we're starting at around 2245,
Correct.
and then
And
about
you
10 or
see
12
the-
years after that.
yes, correct.
So
Yeah, we were involved with the first part of the war, and then, of course, after this, I think like 15 years later, there is the war. That's in season 1 of Discovery.
right.
So we're between those two.
I think one of the missing elements that may not be thought of a whole lot, and it's something that I discovered pretty quickly just with me being a big guy. I'm 6'5", which is pretty tall. Now I've lost a lot of weight in the last few months, but I was a big guy, and there are a lot of big guys that do fan films. And I think part of what dictates when your show takes place is what can you fit in?
Right.
What uniform can you get that's your size? And it's kind of funny because you talk about the budget also. A lot of us don't have access to personal seamstresses or people that can make custom sizes. You're ordering off a website where they have their chart, and you're just praying that a 3XL in the US is the same scale as a 3XL from China. And let me just tell you, it's not.
Exactly what happened.
It's not. Right? Yes.
Always order one size up at least. Yes.
If at all possible, yes, because the first DS9 jacket, it was the first contact style jacket that I got. I couldn't get my arm through it. Like, now wait a minute. On paper, I'm supposed to be able to get in this thing, but I would have ended up like this. Couldn't get the arms down. So yes, and that's the thing is, you may say, well, we want to have a Discovery era film. However, we've got this people and these people that are a part of it, but this guy, he's not going to fit in the Discovery era uniforms we can get. So what do? Either you recast that role for someone smaller, or you decide, oh, wait a minute, but these uniforms we can get people in. So that changes the scope of your story and when it takes place. Right. So was that something that came up at all during your writing or filming of this that dictated we have to completely change where or when in the timeline this takes place because we have this actor that we just can't get the uniform for? Anything like that come up?
Well, there were a couple of incidents. First of all, the first captain uniform we got was a bit too small. So actually that's the one we filmed the teaser in. For the movie, we managed to get a bigger one. We also had, we didn't have a red uniform. That's why our communication officer is in yellow in the teaser. I don't know if it's actually seen in the teaser. I think so. And for the movie, I ordered a red one. And
which arrived like a year.
Like 2 days before. Yeah. And we didn't know if it would actually arrive in time for the shooting. Also, with the recasting, we couldn't use the uniform he actually used in the teaser. And so Valter said, okay, we film anyway. If it's not here, we just use some clamps behind him and shrink it that way. Then luckily it arrives, so it's in the right color and the right size. Also another funny story. It's the, what they call the ranks that are on the sleeves. And when you buy the uniform, you only get the captain's rank. Or for some reason, if you order a female uniform, it's the commander one. So we had to actually unsew them. I actually went with a nail to remove them. And instead of actually sewing them back or gluing them, we said, okay, we can just use double-sided tape so we can change them fast. So we can use the same uniforms, just changing the ranks on the go. And of course, you don't see it.
A little bit of Velcro, huh?
That would be the next step. Another thing was I can actually show this to you if you just give me a second.
Okay. That was, that's another good point when it comes to the TOS uniforms. And Steve, Frank, got me arranged with the red uniform that I wear when I do the filming on your scenes. And the way I at least thought of my character at the time was, he's probably a commander, at least based on my age. If you go off of anything, I'm 46. But the thing is that on the website that all of us usually get uniforms from, a red TOS uniform has the lieutenant commander braids on it. Right. Because it's based off of Scotty. Exactly. So I get that. I'm thinking, well, I guess I'm a lieutenant commander now instead, because I'm not going to unbraid this stuff.
And see, in our story, you're Mr. Cisco because you actually are coming in as a lieutenant. And we're not making a big deal. No, you're getting promoted. See, but we're not making a big deal about showing what your rank is. It's just going to be obvious that you do have the one. That's big obvious, even from a distance, that you've got the one. But the little one, you can say, hey, I was frocked. I don't know if you know what that means. But in the Navy, if you get promoted, but you're not being paid for it yet, there's a thing that they call frocked. You're honorarily promoted, but then you don't actually get paid for it for like 6 months to a year, depending on the situation. So you get the added responsibility and the honor of that rank early. And so that's what's going on with your character. And
that just ruined my day. Ruined my day because
made your day because you're promoted early.
No, I wanted to be a commander. I get my uniform and it's got lieutenant commander braids, which I can't change. Now I find out I'm actually a lieutenant. It's like I want to get
to work promoted, your way through the system,
but I want to get paid. I want the money.
Hey, anyway, it's more or less a socialist society. So,
Anyway, let's be honest. Even CBS production doesn't really know what to do with his uniforms.
Yeah, that's true.
So why should we bother?
Every season,
they kept changing them. Anyway, when I went to take was this. When you get this. They have a pin that you need to actually pin on the uniform. The problem with this is that if you pin on the uniform, you have to actually basically make an hole on the uniform, and they actually tend to go this way.
Right.
I took out all the pins, and I bought these very powerful magnets. So you basically, I don't know if I can say.
Yeah. I will only work with magnets. I won't get.
That's what I got for him.
Yeah. I won't do the brooch pin because you don't want to poke holes in your uniform. And the problem is that if you don't get it there perfectly that first try, you either live with it or you realize, I already have a hole in my shirt. And I'm going to put in, even if you don't see it, because you've got the size of the badge. Right. And I'm sure you've got it close, that you weren't so far off that where you need to move it isn't covered by the badge, but still you're putting holes in the shirt. So for me, that's another thing that kind of, I think might dictate who your character is and where and when the story takes place. Is you've got to get a uniform that you can fit in. Can you get a badge that matches for that uniform? Is it a brooch that you have to stick a hole in? And can you get a magnet badge for that's appropriate for that era and that uniform? And if you can, great. If not, well, you have to cut the pin off,
right?
Glue the magnet on there. Yes. So it's all these crazy things that you don't realize when you're making these fan films is uniform, what we have access to for uniforms and badges, because there have been uniforms I've wanted to get that's like, oh, this is perfect. I want this uniform, this jacket, this shirt. Great. They have it in my size. That's perfect. Now I need to find the badge that goes with it. Oh, it's only this one with the pins. I can't get it in the magnet. So you have to get creative. Like, okay, well, I'm going to have to, just like you held up there, you get those magnets, and you have to glue it on there, and so it's like you kind of have to create your own thing to match up.
And I don't think we had the magnets on the first day. Am I right?
I did it on the first day. I did it before
On
the first day.
day. Ah,
Yes.
I didn't remember. Okay.
I actually did it already for the teaser.
Yes, because you already tried it. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Oh, that's the kind of problems you run into when you're making. You don't. At first, you make a fan film or any film, and you think it's all going to be about creativity, about the story, about getting the acting on point, and there's that part, of course. But then you realize you waste a lot of times with stuff like putting the badges on the on clothes or something like that.
Little details, yes.
Yeah,
Also about sourcing the uniform, I was lucky because I ordered like 2 uniforms from Cosacon, I think it was, which are actually very good.
Yes.
Cosamart, yeah. So we used those. When we decided that we needed a bigger uniform for our captain, we kind of thought about, well, maybe we take the green wraparound,
Oh, yeah.
But I eventually said, okay, no, we have only it's going to arrive just before the shooting. We can't risk it. So I just ordered a new one, normal one from Cosacon. Maybe for the second part, we'll see.
We could only get it in this size, this color. You're now a captain, but we need you to lose about 10, 15 pounds before the filming. Watch your weight because the costume's not all that flattering. You don't realize the things you run into. I kid you not. It's crazy. This style of uniform is great because you can either zip it or not, which looks fine, or this. We can get you in that uniform, but we're not going to be able to get you out of it.
Yeah,
not without
that
scissors.
happened to me on my first shoot. Yeah, I had an old costume,
the golden uniform.
So
I got into it.
I did my screen test, and I was like, "Oh, I'm done. I'm gonna have to order a new one now."
We need a pair of scissors and a stick of butter. This is not going to be pretty.
Yeah.
One of the jobs I have to do between each take was like, okay, first of all, the Discovery, actually not Discovery, they're the Enterprise Discovery ones. The first ones have this collar.
Jumpsuit.
The problem is that when the actor talks, the collar goes, and it's very distracting.
Oh no!
So we actually glued it down, but it kept ungluing itself. So after every take, I had to say, okay, everybody, Picard. Then check
Picard maneuver. I keep telling him, Picard maneuver. Pull your shirt down. Let's do this right.
He does a lot of it.
And then your badge pops off.
Okay.
I can. It's time to go sideways like this.
Yeah.
They do. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I love talking to fan film creators, fan filmmakers, especially getting the opportunity to talk to those that are in different countries. There are a few that I've talked to that are in different areas like Germany, Scotland, et cetera. Now add Italy to the list. So we're just going international with these podcast interviews, which is great. But Jack and Walter and Steve, thank you all for sitting here with me today and for doing this. And Steve, thank you very much for arranging this and getting Jack and Walter on board to do the talk. For any of you, Jack, Walter, Steve, want to talk about your social medias, where our audience can find you guys and get more information on you?
Jack?
We have this Star Trek fan film IT, I think it is, that you can follow, and we have our website, which is basically right now we only have a few information on it, not very much, but this will change.
Okay. And
great.
Valter, do you have anything like a professional website?
Yes. What do I do with my team? You can find it on a website. Well, it's all in Italian, of course. But
Google Translate works.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Well, there's a website called lunasoft.it. But maybe it's better if you check out my Instagram and go from there, which is Walter Webb Lunasoft or Lunasoft Video. It's a couple of Instagram accounts. I'd write you the exact name, and you can check the Instagram and the Facebook of the fan film. As Jack said, it was a Star Trek fan film ITA, which there's teaser posters. We post regularly on that.
All right, excellent.
And we are going online on the fan film. It's going to be released online on I don't remember the exact. I think it's the 27th. We agreed on the 27th, right?
Of June.
Of June. It's going to be released online. What we did on the 27th of June.
And Steve,
So it'll be
of course,
in
for you,
Italian and English subtitles.
Yes, but we're doing an English dubbing. We're in the process of doing it.
Okay, and how do you get in touch with people that want to volunteer to do your? Didn't you say you had 2 female voices left?
Sorry,
Are you still recruiting?
We need a couple of voice, one for the cadets, basically from the 2 female cadets.
Okay, so we can contact you through your website then.
That would be great. Yes, if we found them, that would be great.
All right, and just put it in the show notes. Harris Film Productions over on YouTube, and I've got an Instagram, but it's too complicated to explain. It'll be in the show notes. How's that? It's really simple, but if I say it, you will get tripped up on it because it's a tongue twister.
Right. Gotcha. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. Appreciate your time, and live long and prosper.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your years. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.
If you enjoyed this podcast, you can support us at patreon.com/beyondtrek.